Is Avowed woke? Well, it's something. It's an action RPG that borrows elements from Skyrim, Mass Effect, and Dishonored in my opinion, and it has its problems. In this video, we'll talk about the pros and the many cons of Avowed. I've played 22 hours in Avowed, and I'll give my honest thoughts on my experiences so far. The game starts off pretty scuffed with these horrendous looking template presets for your character. Oh my gosh, what is this? I mean, could they try to make it look any worse, honestly? As is the case in most modern video games, you can't escape the body type dilemma. It's male or it's female, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, what is the body type based on? At the end of the day, it's based on one or the other, so it may as well be just male or female. It's not rocket science. There's the identifier, 3 of them instead of 2, but hey, at least they stopped at 3. And we got the identifier, but you don't have to have it on, so the game doesn't really force or ram this down your throat past this point. Because the presets are so horrendous, you have to create your own monstrosity. But at least the customization is pretty funny for someone like me that likes to create something that looks, well, less than conventional, let's say that much for sure. Visuals of the game can be quite scuffed if you've got the upscaling, which I do, as I have a 1080 Ti, and I'm not sure if that's powerful enough to run this game with its optimization issues. AMD Fidelity FX free upscaling, it has this grainy look to it. If I knock it off, my frame rate will definitely tank, but it will look a little bit cleaner with slightly less grain. I can get much cleaner looking gameplay in Skyrim, I can tell you that much. Some quests are just bugged. This one where I have to defend this farm versus the spirits. They spawned, I killed them, but it's not complete. And when I come back, I cannot for some reason seem to provoke it to happen again, nor do anything to complete the quest. So it's just a dead quest now. The bounties bugged as well, because in Dawnshore I did all 5 bounties, handed them in, and then I needed to come back to Custol's Folly for another item, and then I came across an NPC that was part of a bounty. She was respawned, so I killed her again, and then when I went to the bounty master, I was stuck at like 4 out of 5, and it just wouldn't let me hand in. It was just weird, so this is now permanently not 100% complete. So if you was 100% completionist, this would definitely tick you off. The terrain looks pretty. There's nice exploration vibes to this game, especially with the parkour. Hit and miss, I would say. Generally, I enjoy it, as it feels like you can sort of challenge yourself to traverse obstacles and then get rewarded with a chest or a secret, collecting things. However, the parkour does restrict you a little bit in how you traverse up mountains and such, where there's like almost invisible walls that you just cannot possibly get past, even though clearly they're there, or you can't jump over them. Whereas when it's designed for you to jump over it, it will happily give you the character animation to let it be as such a thing. But yeah, I like the non-restrictive nature of Skyrim, where I can go up anything I really want by brute force. So there's a lot going for this game in that regard. I think it's very nice, but just if it could not feel quite so restricted with the mountain areas and the cliffs forcing you to parkour a specific way. But another thing I do like is the level layout design. I would say, generally speaking, there's multiple ways to get to the same point, and that goes for in caves and dungeons as well as out in the open. So that part I definitely get a kick out of, traversing and finding secrets along the way. I like that you can move extra quick with unique items and granting increased movement speed, as well as NPC abilities or even potions to give movement speed. That's a big boost to me. I love going fast. However, when you're in third party mode, you seem to sort of slide and drift when you're running around, and it's very clunky, doesn't play smooth, and it's just downright uncomfortable. I don't know why the character drifts in this version, but if you want to move fast, smoothly, then you have to stay in first person. See what I mean about the forced parkour sort of designation as to what you can climb, what you can't climb, how it stops you, rather than just naturally being able to jump over something. It's pretty disappointing how you can't interact with any of the nature in the game, such as the animals, the people. They just don't really do anything. They feel very stock NPC, bare basic templates that are just there for filling the world, but not really feeling like the world is filled in. It's basically kind of emotionless, without personality. Yeah, that looks scuffed. The compass is very small at the top left. I don't know there's a way to increase it. And the fog of war is kind of a nuisance because it's very stingy. Your character's vision is very tight. So whilst you want to try to cleanly see everything that you can on the map, you have to go back and forth on yourself over and over. I can't see the fog of war on the mini-map, so I have to keep pulling that up. And then every time I pull it up, my character stops. And I have to like re-sprint and get the mobility going. So very clunky from that aspect. Not a fan. Fast travel in this game is fine. It does its job. It doesn't always work depending on what quest you're on and whether it wants to restrict you, which can be frustrating because getting from point A to B, yeah, it can still take a really long time. Load times can be quite long though, which isn't great. Camps are another sort of thing that is nice, but done probably better in other games like Baldur's Gate, where you can communicate with your NPCs and talk to them, get more benefits from the story if that's what you want to do. You can engage with your stash, you can upgrade your weapons, although it's pretty stingy on the amount of resources you need. Because it takes a long time to actually make your weapons really do much in this game. There's enchanting. Don't know why you can't go back on yourself, or at least pay some price to go back on yourself. So you better have like multiple versions of the same uniques, which isn't exactly easy. I still can't find a two-hand unique that I really liked. And well, that's gone now. So don't break those down, I can tell you that much for sure. Totems are something to uncover, which is nice. Just more benefits to your character and rewarded for exploration. There's treasure maps and such, which can reward a player for exploring and looking at the terrain and then working out where the treasure is. The game feels that way too. Feels rushed in general, I would say, just to meet the match with other games that are of similar quality, but maybe doesn't do it quite as well as any of them. There's also crafting somewhat. As you saw, I could upgrade the weapons, improve them. Pretty bare basic. Just requires a lot of materials to make them do slightly more. And then, of course, there's tons of consumables, which is fine and dandy, but it's just kind of messy in the grand scheme of things. I do like the wheel, which is, again, another standard in most other games, but it's pretty easy to pull it up and then traverse to find which potions you want to use. Based on combat or dialogue, you can boost your stats, and even exploration. As you saw, I used movement speed to get around a bit quicker too. So that's nice, but it's also kind of expected, so I guess well done for meeting the standard. Tracking quests can be a bit of a pain since you can only track one at a time. Why can't you have multiple tracked and perhaps have control over the color of it? So this could be blue, that could be red, that could be yellow, for example. So when you look at your mini-map, you have multiple points to go to work it out. You just get a number and say, go here, and it's like, okay. See, this is another example of the parkour system being a bit invisible walled. I wouldn't mind climbing up there and seeing if that leads to something, but I literally cannot jump over this. So many other video games, especially the old ones, will just let you go anywhere and everywhere. There is no restrictions. If you can do it, congrats, you did it. I mean, it's a single-player game. What does it matter? Like, it's not like it's going to break anything for other players if I manage to get up there. I'm not a huge fan of this ugly sort of multicolored style that Avowed has gone through. Its cinematic look, the artwork for the fundamental base of the game with a weird skeleton, I think it's deliberately done so, but it does come across as hideous in many cases. And I don't think it works. I'd say the ugly aesthetic is probably inspired by the movie Annihilation, if you've ever seen that. Not a great movie, but there is definitely one reason to watch it, and it's the big beastie in the middle. I won't give any more spoilers. It is nice to find the chests out in the open world and find what goodies you can get. But after a while, it's just all the same. Materials, very rarely anything interesting. So it loses its luster. Invisible Wall says no. Combat in this game is fine. You've got a plethora of magic attacks, ranged attacks, melee attacks. There's lots of things you can try to do, but not too much at any one time. And combat, generally speaking, is a bit slow. I don't like all of the spell effects around my screen and how the game becomes muted. It's very annoying. Do not play on the hardest difficulty. I had to swap over to the normal difficulty. I did the hardest difficulty for about 18 hours, and that was painful. All they do is they just basically give the creeps about 10,000% more health, and they can basically almost one-shot you in every single hit. Otherwise, the spells that they use, the spell indicators, so the red box hits and red circles that you have to dodge, those need to be more interactive rather than just a giant health pool, because it's bloody annoying to deal with. But yeah, it gets a little repetitive doing combat over and over. I think the game starts off really strong, gives you lots of different weapons to try out, and then you feel like, oh, there's so many different things, and I can do this, I can do that. But really, at the end of it, you just find out that you just very slowly attack, and then wait to reload, very slowly attack, wait to reload. And sure, you can put a shield on and stuff like that, but I wish I could do a lot more at any given time. It feels like you're still very limited. The potential's there, but they just hold you back, and I don't know if there's anything to do with it being a console game. Or is it on console? I think it might be partly playable on console too. So you got the character abilities here. There's a fair few to choose from, but generally speaking, it's very stingy on how many points it gives you to spend, so you're not really feeling like you're having an impact on your character. And I can't help but feel that maybe the game only gets interesting once you get to like level 20 and you've actually finally got to put a fair few points into stuff. So for example, there's so many points you could put in here, but 13 across all of this, that's so tight and stingy. You should have like twice, if not 3 times the amount of points to really have at it and have fun building your character. It's way too tight, way too stingy. And as for the character attribute bonus, the problem I have with this is it's actually a bit of a debate. It's not really in your control. In most games, I like to go crazy, put everything into might, for example, but the diminishing returns are so punishing. At a certain point, even not too far from 6, you'll start to only get like 19% damage and 21% damage and 20. You're going up by like 1 or 2%. It's so negligible. So the game basically is trying to force you to essentially put your points fairly and evenly into everything, and then it's just homogenous and not interesting in that regard. And part of the reason why I think they do that is because of the dialogue. A lot of the dialogue options sort of force you to, well, it doesn't force you, but it requires you to have, say, for example, 5 points in constitution or 5 points in dexterity to open up a dialogue conversation with someone. And it's just like, if that's the reason why you're hampering me on making a really cool, fun character, then that's annoying. My initial plan was to go very high onto dexterity so I could have as much attack speed as possible and then stun lock my opponents with constant attacks, because when you hit them with certain weapons, you can increase your stun, and that's really fun. The potential's there again, like I say, but they kind of hold you back, and I don't like it. I don't like how they hold you back. Oh, the other issue I have with combat is it's kind of one of those endless fighter style combats a lot of the time. Sometimes you go up against mobs and they are what they are. 3 of them. You kill 3 of them. Job done. And then in other cases, hang on a second, there's a mob behind me. Where did he come from? He just spawned out of nowhere. They keep kind of doing that in many of these combat situations, and it's really annoying. I don't like it when they just pop mobs in out of nowhere, and it's just kill all the mobs until you got them all, and then you can move on. It's like trapped in this environment until you can move on. Just show me what I'm working with, and then I can deal with it and strategize around it. Inventory management is fine, I guess. The weapon sets are interesting, but there's only 2 to work with. It'd be interesting to have even more, considering there's a fair few interesting weapons like I was talking about, but they hold you back in many regards. So having more to do would always be good. You can send stuff back to your camp, but you can't get stuff back from your camp without going to the camp, as far as I know. So if you accidentally send something back to your camp, yeah, then I have to travel there, get it out your stash, and put it back in your character. Not the best system. I'm pretty sure lots of other games do it better. Even Skyrim probably did it better. And how long ago did that come out? So, yeah, it's serviceable. It's not terrible. It is what it is. Quest log is, again, serviceable. I can't think of too many things I hate about it, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. At least it kind of tells you the previous steps that you've done. Look at those sorry souls. These poor NPCs forced to awkwardly stare at each other, like when you're on a train and your two seats are you facing someone else, and they're facing you directly, and you've got like 2 feet between you. It's so awkward and uncomfortable the way the NPCs interact in this game. They don't have any jobs to do. Skyrim gives them jobs to do, move around the town, mill about, and then they go home at night. These guys will just stand here all day and do these very awkward gestures. It's kind of hilarious, to be honest, how bad this is. This is probably the worst aspect of the game. Well, you pick what you want, but this is definitely one of the worst ones of the game. It's just like a really strange empty feel to the world. Like, this guy's going at it, but there's nothing here. It's just so weird and awkward.
That we don't take everything as seriously as you joyless lot!
See? This is what I'm talking about. Antagonism, plain and simple.
Ugh, what sweaty endearing beast used my chair? Feels like they fucked up my poor table, too.
This game has a really weird deal with women, right? A lot of the characters are basically women. A lot of the guards are women. They seem to all be girl bosses, and they swear a lot. It's like Hollywood wrote this thing, trying to make out that these women are very strong and independent, but they just come across as assholes. What the hell happened to her face? Look into this poor man's soulless eyes. He's dead inside, performing for everyone that's bored and doesn't seem to want to care.
Smugglers to look out for? No more Deerans coming into the city?
You actually kind of have a fair point there.
This game is so diverse, you'll struggle to find white people. And even these guys have ginger beards. I guess ginger's got some representation. I think overall, Avowed is serviceable. I don't think it's much more than that, which is where the contention is for many people, because it just doesn't quite do anything stand out or amazing. People come into these games expecting the next best thing, but actually a lot of the best things were already in the past with Skyrim, Mass Effect, and I would say New World was the best thing, but this game definitely reminds me of New World in many aspects. So it kind of does a lot of these things, but they've already been done, and it doesn't even do them as well. So, oh look, there it is.
Didn't even stand a chance.
That's the guy at the beach, the furry. Yeah, he's gone. Well, at least the game's somewhat based in that regard. But overall, I think this game was most interesting in the first zone. I clearly went quite hard on it. I had an exploration. I got into it. As someone who basically only plays Warcraft 3 and Slay the Spire, I'm a little sort of unbiased in this regard because, well, I don't actually experience too many other games right now, so I don't know really what I'm looking for in this other than just some sort of relaxation. And I got it in the first zone, but once I moved past this and started going to the next zone, I kind of got bored, to be honest. I felt like I already kind of felt like I played the game in the first zone in the first, 16 or so hours. And I guess 16 hours or whatever is fine. A lot of people can have that for a video game and be done. So maybe the game just stretches itself out too much. I don't know. It's trying to sort of do a lot of things, but can't do any of them brilliantly. Everything like the combat, etc. It just feels held back in many regards, and this is an area that I just kind of skipped past in a lot of regards. I just went basically quest to quest to quest to quest, not even thinking about it, and whenever I had dialogue conversations, I just skipped them all. I could not care less, to be honest with you, and I think that's how it is for a lot of people, especially since the dialogue in this game is not too good. But yeah, overall, Avowed is mid, and I think that was the consensus, right? It's not spectacular, it's not fantastic. I looked into the game at the start more positively, but as I played through it, I found out that it is basically as you guys said. It's alright, it's just not that good. It's serviceable, it's fine, but for 59 quid? No, of course not. I got this on Game Pass, so it cost me a quid initially and then £14 or £9.99 for the month or whatever, so would I pay $59.99 for this? Definitely not. I would just go play Skyrim again. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and those are my thoughts on Avowed. If you like this video, then, yeah, like it, and let me know if you want to see more of it.